In the grim darkness of the far future, there exists no greater perversion of the Emperor's grand design than the Chaos Space Marines. These fallen angels, once humanity's finest defenders, now stand as its most terrible enemies. Where loyalist Space Marines represent hope and valor, their corrupted brothers embody despair and damnation. But how does one become a Chaos Space Marine? What twisted paths lead to such profound corruption? Today, we delve deep into the dark machinery of creation that forges these warriors of ruin. The transformation from human to Chaos Space Marine is not merely a physical process. It is a descent into darkness that corrupts body, mind, and soul. Unlike their loyalist counterparts, who undergo carefully monitored transformation in fortress monasteries, under the watchful eyes of apothecaries and chaplains, those who become Chaos Space Marines are subjected to brutal, accelerated procedures that care nothing for the sanctity of life or the preservation of sanity. The process is as varied as it is horrific, differing between the traitor legions and renegade warbands, yet all paths lead to the same destination. Warriors who have abandoned their oaths to the Emperor and embraced the ruinous powers that whisper from the warp. Understanding how Chaos Space Marines are made requires us to look beyond simple surgical procedures and genetic manipulation. We must examine the very nature of chaos itself and how its corrupting influence seeps into every aspect of their creation. From the moment a potential recruit is captured or corrupted, the taint of the dark gods begins its insidious work. The process encompasses not just the implantation of gene seed organs, but also exposure to the warping energies of the Imperium, indoctrination into twisted belief systems, and the gradual erosion of everything that once made them human. Some Chaos Marines were once loyalists, who fell to corruption. Others were created from scratch, using stolen gene seed and enslaved populations. Still others emerged from the laboratories of mad geniuses like Fabius Bile, crafted through methods that make even other traitors recoil in disgust. The Chaos Space Marines represent 10,000 years of accumulated hatred, bitterness, and ambition. They are the veterans of the Long War, warriors who have survived countless battles and emerged stronger, if more twisted, from each encounter. Their creation is not a single event, but an ongoing process of transformation that continues throughout their existence. With each passing century spent in the Eye of Terror or other warp-saturated regions, they become less human and more demon. Their armor fuses with their flesh. Their weapons develop a hunger all their own. Their very presence becomes an affront to reality itself. This is the fate of all who walk the path of chaos, and it begins with the first step of their creation. Historical origins, the Horus Heresy. To understand how Chaos Space Marines are made in the current era, we must first travel back 10 millennia to the galaxy-spanning civil war known as the Horus Heresy. This catastrophic conflict, which nearly destroyed the Imperium in its infancy, marked the creation of the first Chaos Space Marines and established many of the methods still used today. The heresy was not simply a military rebellion. It was a fundamental corruption of everything the Emperor had built, a perversion of his greatest achievements turned against him. During the Great Crusade, the Emperor of Mankind had created 20 Primarchs, demigod generals, crafted from his own genetic material. Each Primarch led a legion of Space Marines numbering in the tens of thousands, warriors who shared their gene father's genetic template. These legions conquered the galaxy in the Emperor's name, bringing countless worlds into the fold of the nascent Imperium. But the Chaos Gods, those malevolent entities that dwell in the warp and feed upon mortal emotions, had long plotted against the Emperor's plans. They scattered the infant Primarchs across the galaxy and began laying the groundwork for corruption. The fall began with Lorgar Aurelian, Primarch of the Wordbearers Legion. When the Emperor chastised him for spreading worship of the divine rather than the secular imperial truth, Lorgar's faith did not die. Instead, it sought new gods to venerate. Guided by his first captain, Erebus, and his mentor, Cor Phaeron, Lorgar discovered the Chaos Gods and embraced them as the true powers of the universe. The Word-Bearers became the first legion to fall to chaos, though they hid their corruption for decades while they worked to bring others into the fold. The corruption of Horus Lupercal, the Emperor's most favored son and appointed war master of all Imperial forces, proved to be the keystone of the traitor conspiracy. While recovering from a grievous wound on the world of Davin, Horus was subjected to a vision orchestrated by chaos that showed him a future where the Emperor was worshipped as a god, while the Primarchs were forgotten. The seeds of doubt planted by the Word-Bearers years earlier now bloomed into full rebellion. Horus turned traitor, and with him, 8 other legions followed: the Emperor's children under Fulgrim, the Iron Warriors under Perturabo, the Night Lords under Conrad Curzon, the World Eaters under Angron, the Death Guard under Mortarion, the Thousand Sons under Magnus the Red, the Sons of Horus, and the Alpha Legion under Alpharius and Omegon. But this fall to chaos was not instantaneous for all members of these legions. Many Space Marines within the traitor legions remained loyal to the Emperor, particularly those who had been recruited from Terra itself before reunification with their Primarchs. This presented a problem for the traitor cause. Horus could not launch his rebellion with significant loyalist elements within his own forces. The solution was as brutal as it was efficient: the Istvan III atrocity. Under the pretense of putting down a rebellion on Istvan III, Horus gathered the loyalist elements from 4 legions: the Sons of Horus, World Eaters, Death Guard, and Emperor's Children, and sent them to the surface. Once they were engaged with the enemy, the orbiting fleet launched a devastating virus bombing that killed everything on the planet's surface. Those loyalists who survived the initial bombardment, having taken shelter in hardened positions, were then subjected to orbital bombardment, followed by ground assaults by their own traitorous brothers. Over the course of weeks, the loyalist elements were systematically purged. This act marked the true birth of the Chaos Space Marines as a distinct faction. These were no longer simply Space Marines who happened to rebel against authority. They had murdered their own brothers, violated the most sacred oaths of brotherhood, and aligned themselves with powers that sought the destruction of humanity itself. The transformation was spiritual as much as physical. When Horus opened his forces to the influence of chaos, the warp began its corrupting work on both flesh and equipment. The longer the heresy continued, the more pronounced these changes became. The Emperor's children embraced Slaanesh, the dark prince of pleasure and excess. Their pursuit of perfection became an obsession that twisted into seeking ever more extreme sensations. Their flesh began to mutate, taking on aspects that reflected their new patron god. The World Eaters, already modified with the butcher's nails implants that increased their aggression, threw themselves into Khorne's worship with savage abandon. The Death Guard, betrayed by their father Mortarion's desperate pact with Nurgle, became walking vessels of plague and decay. The Thousand Sons, trying to save themselves from mutation, fell deeper into Tzeentch's schemes, eventually suffering the rubric of Ahriman that turned all but their most powerful psykers into dust trapped within their armor. The process of corruption varied widely. Some Space Marines actively sought the gifts of chaos, making bargains with demons and offering sacrifices to the dark gods. Others were gradually worn down by exposure to the warp, their resistance eroding over months or years of campaigning. Still others were forcibly corrupted through dark rituals or exposure to warp-tainted artifacts. The Word-Bearers, who had planned this corruption for decades, used their dark apostles and rituals to spread chaos, worship throughout the traitor ranks. They taught the rites and prayers that would open Space Marines to possession or grant them demonic power. By the time the traitor forces reached Terra for the final assault on the Imperial Palace, they bore little resemblance to the warriors who had set out on the Great Crusade. Many had sprouted additional limbs, horns, or otherworldly appendages. Their armor had fused with their flesh in many cases, creating a hybrid of biological and mechanical that pulsed with warp energy. Their weapons wept blood or screamed with the voices of bound demons. They had become living weapons of chaos, and though the heresy would end in defeat with Horus's death at the Emperor's hands, the Chaos Space Marines had been born. The defeated traitor legions fled into the Eye of Terror, a region of space where the warp bleeds into real space. Here, in this hellish domain, they would spend the next 10,000 years plotting their return. And here, cut off from the Imperium's resources and infrastructure, they would need to find new ways to replenish their numbers. The methods they would develop would be crude, brutal, and utterly devoid of the reverence and care that characterized loyalist Space Marine creation. But they would work, after a fashion, and they would allow the traitor legions to continue the long war against the Imperium they once served. The Gene Seed Foundation. At the heart of every Space Marine, whether loyalist or traitor, lies the Gene Seed. This miraculous genetic material, created by the Emperor himself during the founding of the Space Marine legions, represents the pinnacle of biological engineering. Understanding Gene Seed and how it functions is crucial to understanding how Chaos Space Marines are made, for even corrupted and twisted, it remains the foundation upon which these warriors are built. Gene Seed is not a single organ or genetic sequence, but rather a collection of specialized germ cells that have been genetically engineered to develop into 19 distinct organs when implanted into a human host. These organs fundamentally transform a normal human into a transhuman Astartes, granting abilities far beyond natural human limitations. Each of the original 20 Primarchs served as a genetic template, with their unique characteristics encoded into the gene seed that would be used to create their legions. When a Primarch's gene seed is implanted into a recruit, that recruit doesn't just gain superhuman abilities. He gains echoes of his gene father's own characteristics, both physical and mental. The 19 gene seed organs work in concert to transform a human adolescent into a Space Marine. The secondary heart provides a backup for the primary heart and can maintain full circulatory function if the primary fails. The os modular secretes hormones that cause the skeleton to grow larger and the bones to become much stronger. The biscopia enhances muscle growth throughout the body, creating the massive physique that makes Space Marines such formidable warriors. The hemastomen increases the blood's oxygen-carrying capacity and produces new blood cells at an accelerated rate. The Laramans organ creates specialized cells that act as superior platelets, causing wounds to seal almost instantly. Other organs provide even more exotic abilities. The catalepsian node allows a Space Marine to remain conscious and alert even when parts of his brain are resting, effectively eliminating the need for normal sleep. The preomnor acts as a pre-stomach that can neutralize most poisons before they reach the digestive system. The omophagia connects to the brain and allows a Space Marine to gain genetic memories from consumed flesh, hence the blood drinking and flesh-eating rituals of some chapters. The multi-lung provides a backup respiratory system that can function in hostile atmospheres. The oculobe modifies the eyes to enhance vision in low light and protect against sudden bright flashes. The lineman's ear improves hearing and provides immunity to vertigo and motion sickness. The Susan membrane allows a Space Marine to enter a state of suspended animation when grievously wounded. The melanochrome controls skin pigmentation and provides protection from radiation. The oolitic kidney acts as an emergency toxin filter. The neuroglottis enhances taste and smell to the point where a Space Marine can track prey by scent or detect poison by taste. The mucranoid secretes a waxy protective coating over the skin in response to extreme temperatures. The Betcher's gland allows a Space Marine to spit blinding venom. The progenoids, perhaps the most crucial organs, collect and store the genetic data needed to create new gene seed, ensuring the continuation of the chapter. The black carapace, the final implant, is a sheet of fibrous organic material that is surgically implanted beneath the skin. It hardens into a tough interface between the Space Marine's nervous system and his power armor. Fiber bundles grow throughout the Marine's body, connecting to the black carapace and allowing thought impulse control of armor systems. This creates the seamless integration between Marine and armor that makes them such effective warriors. This entire process of implantation and development normally takes years under carefully controlled conditions. Imperial apothecaries monitor each stage, adjusting hormone treatments and conducting hypno-indoctrination to ensure the recruit's body accepts the implants. The failure rate, even under ideal conditions, is significant. Many recruits die during the process, their bodies rejecting the gene seed or being overwhelmed by the radical changes. Those who survive emerge as Space Marines, but only after years of pain, transformation, and conditioning. For Chaos Space Marines, this process is fundamentally altered in several critical ways. First and most importantly, the gene seed of the traitor legions has been corrupted by 10,000 years of exposure to the warp. The genetic code has mutated and degraded, introducing instabilities that make the already dangerous transformation process even more lethal. Some organs no longer function properly, others produce unexpected effects. The rate of mutation and rejection is far higher than in Loyalist chapters, and the resulting Chaos Marines often bear physical alterations that mark them as tainted. The corruption manifests differently depending on which legion's gene seed is used and which Chaos God, if any, has claimed it. The Death Guard's gene seed, saturated with Nurgle's essence, produces Marines whose bodies are riddled with disease, yet impossibly resilient. The Emperor's Children's gene seed, touched by Slaanesh, heightens sensation to painful extremes, while dulling the recruit's capacity for normal emotion. The Thousand Sons face a genetic curse that causes rapid and uncontrollable mutation, which was only stabilized after a fashion by the rubric of Ahriman. The World Eater's gene seed, already modified by the Butcher's nails, creates warriors consumed by rage and bloodlust. Moreover, the Chaos Space Marines lack the sophisticated infrastructure that Loyalist chapters possess. They have no secure fortress monasteries with sterile operating theaters and banks of preserved gene seed. They possess no tech marines trained on Mars in the proper maintenance of equipment. No apothecaries who learned their craft from those who had practiced it for centuries. Instead, they have what they can salvage, steal, or create through dark pacts with the forces of chaos. Their gene seed is often harvested from the dead after battles, torn from cooling corpses by apothecaries who serve the dark gods. It may be centuries old, poorly preserved, and contaminated with warp energies. The instability of traitor gene seed creates a desperate hunger for new genetic material. This is why Chaos warbands raid Imperial fortress monasteries whenever possible, seeking to steal untainted gene seed stocks. A cache of Loyalist gene seed represents an invaluable resource, potentially able to create dozens or even hundreds of new Chaos Marines. Of course, Loyalist gene seed implanted into those who serve Chaos will itself become corrupted over time. But initially, it produces more stable results than the degraded material the traitors normally work with. Some traitor legion apothecaries have become expert at blending different gene seed lineages, creating hybrid marines that carry genetic material from multiple primarchs. This was once considered the gravest heresy, but Chaos cares nothing for the Emperor's laws. These hybrids often exhibit unpredictable traits and accelerated mutation rates, but when they survive the process, they can be formidable warriors. Fabius Bile, the infamous apothecary of the Emperor's Children, has pushed this art to its limits, creating abominations that bear only the slightest resemblance to true Space Marines. The degradation of gene seed over millennia in the Eye of Terror has led some warbands to the point of desperation. Their gene seed stocks have become so corrupted that they can no longer create new Marines reliably. These warbands must either disband, join larger forces, or find alternative methods. Some turn to even darker pacts with Chaos, accepting demons into their ranks, or transforming their warriors into possessed. Others seek out the services of beings like Fabius Bile, trading slaves and resources for his expertise in creating new marines from degraded genetic material. Yet despite all these challenges and corruptions, Geneseed remains the irreplaceable foundation of Chaos Space Marine creation. Without it, there can be no true Astartes, only normal humans enhanced through surgery and warp taint. The Geneseed is what makes a Space Marine fundamentally superior to even the most augmented human warrior. It is the Emperor's greatest gift and his greatest curse, for the same genetic engineering that created his finest defenders also enabled his most terrible enemies to endure across 10,000 years of war. Acquisition of recruits. While Geneseed provides the genetic foundation for creating Chaos Space Marines, that Geneseed must be implanted into human hosts. Unlike Loyalist chapters, which carefully select recruits from specific worlds and bloodlines, testing them for genetic compatibility and psychological fortitude, Chaos Warbands acquire their raw material through far more brutal and pragmatic methods. The acquisition of recruits is the first step in the physical transformation from human to Chaos Marine, and it sets the tone for all that follows. The primary method of acquiring recruits is through raids on Imperial worlds. Chaos Warbands will descend upon poorly defended settlements, typically on frontier worlds or in the outer systems of a sector where Imperial response times are measured in weeks or months rather than hours. These raids serve multiple purposes. They acquire slaves for labor, sacrificial victims for dark rituals, supplies and equipment, and most importantly, potential recruits. The raiders don't simply grab every warm body they find. Even corrupted and degraded Geneseed requires recipients who fall within certain parameters. Recruits must be young, typically adolescents whose bodies have not yet fully matured but are past the earliest stages of childhood. This age window is narrower for Chaos recruitment than for Loyalists because the process is more rushed and brutal. An ideal recruit is between 10 and 14 Terran years old, though some warbands will accept slightly older candidates if they're desperate for numbers. The recruit must also be male. The Geneseed zygotes are keyed to male hormones and genetic structure. Attempts to implant Geneseed into female subjects universally result in rejection and death, though some Chaos sorcerers claim to have found ways around this limitation through the use of warpcraft. Beyond age and sex, the selection criteria become murkier. Loyalist chapters test for genetic compatibility, psychological resilience, physical prowess, and moral character. Chaos warbands care about none of these things except genetic compatibility, and even that is treated more as a guideline than a requirement. Physical strength and endurance are useful, as they increase the chance of surviving the transformation, but a weak recruit who survives may become strong through the Geneseed's effects. Psychological. Stability is irrelevant or even undesirable. A recruit who is already half mad from trauma may accept the corruption of chaos more readily than one who clings to sanity. Moral character is worse than irrelevant. It's an active hindrance. The transformation into a Chaos Marine requires the death of conscience and compassion. The raid itself is a traumatic experience that begins the psychological conditioning process. Villages are burned, families slaughtered before the eyes of children, and the most helpless left to die slowly. Those selected as potential recruits are herded like cattle, beaten if they resist, and transported in the holds of ships where the screams of other captives echo through the darkness. Some recruits are taken from feral worlds where they have already known nothing but violence. Others come from civilized hive worlds, snatched from comfortable lives and thrust into nightmare. By the time they arrive at whatever hellish facility will serve as their transformation site, they have already begun to break. Not all recruits come from raids, however. Some Chaos warbands maintain slave populations on demon worlds within the Eye of Terror or other warp-saturated regions. These populations are bred specifically to produce recruits. The children of these slaves are born into captivity, raised in conditions of deprivation and violence, and selected for transformation based on their survival of these harsh conditions. This method produces recruits who have never known anything but the will of their Chaos Marine masters, making them potentially more tractable subjects. However, generations spent in warp-saturated environments often result in mutation that makes the population less genetically stable over time. The word-bearers, with their focus on religious indoctrination, sometimes acquire recruits through a different method entirely. They seed chaos cults on imperial worlds, allowing these cults to grow over years or decades. When the cult reaches sufficient size and influence, the word-bearers descend not as raiders, but as liberators in the eyes of the cultists. The cultists willingly offer their children to be transformed into Dark Apostles and Chaos Marines. These recruits come pre-indoctrinated in the worship of chaos, though they still require extensive conditioning to become full members of the Legion. The Night Lords, who care nothing for the worship of chaos and see themselves primarily as criminals and killers, often recruit from the worst elements of criminal underworlds. They seek out those who have already embraced violence and cruelty, who have proven themselves capable of atrocity without remorse. These recruits require less psychological conditioning because they're already broken in the ways the Night Lords value. What they may lack in initial physical prowess, they make up for in cunning and viciousness. The Iron Warriors, pragmatic and disdainful of what they see as chaos worship, frequently conscript recruits from conquered worlds. When they take a world through siege warfare, a process that can take years, they observe the defenders. Those who show particular resilience, tactical acumen, or willingness to commit atrocities in the name of survival are marked for transformation. The Iron Warriors view the selection process as just another logistical problem to be solved through efficient methods. The Black Legion, largest of the Chaos warbands and led by Abaddon the Despoiler, draws recruits from all methods. Some come from raids, others from allied warbands that pledge their newest warriors to Abaddon's cause, still others from entire chapters of Space Marines that turn renegade and join the Long War. The Black Legion is less a single organized force than a confederation of warbands united under Abaddon's banner, and each warband maintains its own recruitment methods. Renegade chapters present a special case in recruit acquisition. When an Imperial chapter turns traitor, whether through gradual corruption or sudden revelation, they often retain their recruitment apparatus, at least initially. They continue to draw recruits from their homeworld or recruitment worlds using the same methods they always have. The new recruits may not even realize they're joining a traitor force until deep into their transformation. By the time the truth is revealed, they're already implanted with gene seed and committed to the process. This method produces Chaos Marines who begin with loyalist training and must be broken of it, a process that's both more difficult and potentially more rewarding than starting with raw slaves. The selection process, such as it is, typically involves sorting captured slaves and selecting those who meet the basic criteria. This is done by apothecaries, or their corrupted equivalents, sometimes aided by chaos sorcerers who can sense which subjects will be most receptive to warp taint. The rejected are not simply released. Most become slave labor, working until they die in the forges and factories of chaos. Others are used as raw material for darker purposes, their bodies rendered down for genetic material or offered as sacrifices to summon daemons. The most fortunate are killed quickly. Those selected as recruits face a different fate, though whether it's better or worse depends on one's perspective. They will be subjected to the implantation process, a procedure that will either transform them into superhuman warriors or kill them in ways that make a quick death seem merciful. The survival rate varies enormously depending on the quality of gene seed available, the skill of the apothecary performing the procedure, the age and condition of the recruit, and the favor or disfavor of the dark gods. Under the best conditions, perhaps 1 in 10 recruits survives to become a full Chaos Marine. Under typical conditions, the rate may be as low as 1 in 100. But numbers mean little to the forces of chaos. There are always more slaves to be taken, more worlds to raid, more innocents to be dragged screaming into the darkness. The acquisition of recruits is an ongoing process, a grim harvest that never ends because the long war never ends. Each new generation of Chaos Marines is built on the corpses of countless failed recruits, and each recruit who does survive carries forward the hatred and bitterness that fuels the Traitor Legion's eternal crusade against the Imperium. The implantation process. Once recruits have been acquired and selected, the actual process of transformation can begin. This is where the fundamental differences between Loyalist and Chaos methods become most apparent. The implantation of gene seed organs is a delicate procedure, even under ideal conditions. For Chaos Space Marines, ideal conditions simply don't exist. What follows is a brutal ordeal that prioritizes speed and volume over the survival and sanity of the recruits. In Loyalist chapters, gene seed implantation follows a carefully structured timeline spanning years. Each organ is implanted and given time to develop properly before the next is added. The recruit undergoes constant medical monitoring, hypnotherapy to help his mind accept the changes, and physical training carefully calibrated to his current state of development. The entire process might take 5 to 10 years, with the recruit serving as a scout marine during the latter stages while his transformation completes. This careful approach maximizes the chance of survival and ensures the resulting Space Marine is as physically and mentally stable as possible. Chaos warbands cannot afford such luxuries. Time spent in careful transformation is time not spent fighting, and many warbands lack the resources for extended medical care of recruits. The solution is to compress the process as much as possible, implanting multiple organs in rapid succession and flooding the recruit system with growth hormones and stimulants to accelerate development. What would take a decade in a Loyalist chapter might be compressed into months or even weeks for a Chaos Marine. This acceleration comes at a terrible cost. The process typically begins with the secondary heart, as it does for Loyalists. This organ must be in place before more radical changes are made, as it helps stabilize the recruit's cardiovascular system against the shock of subsequent procedures. But where a Loyalist apothecary might wait months before the next implantation, a Chaos apothecary might proceed within days or even hours. The osmodula and biscopea are implanted next, triggering the explosive bone and muscle growth that will transform a human adolescent into something approaching Astartes proportions. The speed of this growth is agonizing. Recruits are kept in chemically induced comas for portions of the process, because the pain of bones lengthening and muscles tearing and rebuilding would drive them mad. Even in unconsciousness, they scream and thrash. Those who wake prematurely often die from shock or injure themselves so badly they must be terminated. The ones who survive this initial phase emerge weak and disoriented, their bodies having grown so rapidly that they haven't had time to adapt to their new proportions. Where a Loyalist scout would spend months learning to move in his new body, a Chaos recruit may have only days or weeks. The Laraman's organ and other organs that enhance healing and resilience are prioritized in Chaos implantation. These improve the recruit's chances of surviving the trauma of accelerated transformation and the dangerous conditions in which they're kept. Sanitation is often poor, with multiple recruits kept in the same holding pens where infection can spread rapidly. The preomnor and oolitic kidney help them survive the poor quality food and water they're given. The healing organs help them survive wounds inflicted by brutal trainers or fights with other recruits. Many Chaos warbands deliberately place recruits in situations where they must compete for survival. Food is insufficient for all. The strongest take what they need, and the weak starve. This serves multiple purposes. It reduces the number of recruits who must be cared for, as the weak die off naturally. It begins the psychological conditioning that will make them suitable Chaos Marines, teaching them that only the strong survive and that mercy is a weakness. It also entertains the full Marines, who often make wagers on which recruits will survive. The catalepsian node and other organs affecting the brain and nervous system are particularly dangerous to implant rapidly. These organs interface with existing neural structures, and if given insufficient time to integrate, They can cause seizures, personality fragmentation, or permanent psychosis. For loyalists, this is a concern to be carefully managed. For chaos warbands, it's an acceptable risk. If a recruit goes mad, he can be useful as a berserker or simply disposed of. If he survives with his mind relatively intact, that's ideal. If he develops useful psychic abilities from the trauma, that's a bonus. The black carapace, the final and most complex implant, is installed when the recruit has reached sufficient physical maturity. This process involves extensive surgery to implant the organic interface layer beneath the skin across most of the body. For loyalists, this is done in multiple stages over weeks in sterile surgical bays. For chaos recruits, it may be done in a single marathon surgery in facilities that would horrify any Imperial apothecary. The risk of infection is enormous. The pain is beyond description. Many recruits die during or shortly after the procedure, but those who survive can now interface with power armor, the final step in becoming a true Chaos Marine. Throughout the implantation process, recruits are subjected to indoctrination that would be called brainwashing in any context other than Space Marine creation. They are taught to hate the Imperium, to see the Emperor as a false god who betrayed his finest warriors, to embrace chaos as the only true power in the universe. This indoctrination is often reinforced through torture, drug-induced visions, and exposure to warp energies. The goal is to break down their existing sense of identity and rebuild them as servants of whatever power their warband follows. The word-bearers conduct elaborate rituals during implantation, with dark apostles presiding over each stage and invoking the blessings of the chaos gods. Recruits are taught that their transformation is a religious experience, that they are being elevated from base humanity into something greater through the favor of the dark gods. Those who reject this teaching are killed and their gene seed recovered for use in more receptive subjects. The Emperor's children, devoted to Slanesh, approach implantation as an art form. They seek to make each transformation a masterpiece of pain and pleasure, pushing recruits to the edge of death and then pulling them back. The experience is meant to teach them that sensation, any sensation, is preferable to the grey emptiness of normal human existence. Many recruits develop addictions to pain or pleasure, or both, which serves the Legion's purposes perfectly. The Death Guard's implantation process is nightmarish even by Chaos standards. Recruits are infected with diseases as part of their transformation, their bodies becoming hosts for Nurgle's plagues. They learn to embrace the decay of their flesh even as it becomes stronger and more resilient. The process often leaves them in a state of constant, low-level agony that they learn to ignore or even appreciate as Nurgle's gift. The World Eaters, where they still bother creating new Marines, rather than simply recruiting from other warbands, often implant the Butcher's nails along with the standard gene seed organs. These cybernetic implants, originally designed to turn gladiators into fearless killers, gradually destroy the higher brain functions while enhancing aggression and pain tolerance. The implantation is crude and causes constant pain, which the nails transform into rage. A World Eater's recruit who survives transformation is functionally lobotomized, capable of fighting with superhuman skill but little else. Chemical treatments and hormone therapy, carefully calibrated in loyalist transformations, become a haphazard affair in Chaos hands. The exact doses and timing that would optimize development are often unknown or deliberately ignored. Recruits are simply given whatever chemicals are available and whatever seems to work. This trial and error approach means many recruits die from hormone imbalances or drug interactions. But it also means that occasionally a recruit responds exceptionally well to a particular treatment, emerging stronger and more capable than normal. These survivors become prized warriors, their exact transformation regimen potentially studied and replicated. The influence of the warp adds another layer of complexity and danger to the process. Recruits are often kept in areas where the barrier between real space and the warp is thin. Demons may watch the proceedings, occasionally interfering to corrupt a particularly promising recruit, or simply for their own amusement. Warp energies suffuse the developing organs, accelerating mutations, but also occasionally granting unexpected gifts. A recruit might develop psychic abilities, unusual physical mutations that prove advantageous, or simply a stronger connection to whichever Chaos God claims him. The entire process from capture to full Chaos Marine, assuming the recruit survives, typically takes between 6 months and 2 years. This is a fraction of the time required for Loyalist transformation, and the results show it. Chaos Marines created through these rushed methods are often physically scarred, psychologically damaged, and genetically unstable. But they are still Space Marines, still transhuman warriors, capable of killing dozens of normal humans and standing toe-to-toe with Loyalist Astartes in combat. And for the traitor legions, that's sufficient. The implantation process is not a story of noble sacrifice and transformation into a guardian of humanity. It is a story of torture, trauma, and corruption, of innocents taken from their homes and broken down until nothing remains but hatred and hunger for violence. Every Chaos Marine created through this process represents not just a new warrior for the forces of chaos, but also a failure of the Imperium to protect its citizens and a tragic waste of human potential. The young men who become Chaos Marines might, in another life, have been productive citizens, perhaps even heroes. Instead, they become engines of destruction, living weapons whose only purpose is to bring suffering to the galaxy. Fabius Bile, the Dark Innovator. Among the many horrors that stalk the galaxy in the name of chaos, few are as singularly disturbing as Fabius Bile, the Primogenitor, the Clone Lord, the Man-Flayer. Once the chief apothecary of the Emperor's Children Legion, Bile has spent 10,000 years pursuing a twisted vision of perfection through biological experimentation. His role in creating Chaos Space Marines and his innovations in gene manipulation have made him simultaneously invaluable and reviled across the traitor legions. To understand the full scope of how Chaos Marines are made in the current era, one must understand the work of Fabius Bile. Bile's fall to his current state began long before the Horus Heresy. Even as a loyalist, he had pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in genetic modification. His talent for flesh crafting was undeniable, but so was his willingness to experiment on living subjects without concern for their suffering. When Fulgrim and the Emperor's children fell to Slaanesh, Bile saw an opportunity. Freed from the constraints of imperial law and the apothecarium's regulations, he could pursue his research without limit. He claims to serve no god, not even Slaanesh, and indeed seems motivated purely by his obsession with biological perfection. But whether he acknowledges it or not, his work serves chaos. Bile's importance to the traitor legions lies in his ability to create new space marines from degraded or corrupted gene seed that other apothecaries would consider unusable. Over the millennia, he has refined techniques that can coax viable implants from genetic material so damaged that it should be inert. He can blend gene seed from multiple lineages, creating hybrid marines that carry traits from different primarchs. He can even, it is whispered, create gene seed from scratch through methods he learned from studying the Emperor's original work during the Unification Wars. Whether this last claim is true or simply another of Bile's boasts, none can say for certain. His methods are as varied as they are horrific. Bile maintains multiple laboratories aboard his flagship and on demon worlds throughout the Eye of Terror and beyond. These facilities are part surgical theatre, part genetic engineering lab, and part charnel house. Subjects are cut open, their organs removed and studied, before being either disposed of or reassembled into something new. Bile sees no distinction between willing subjects and unwilling victims. All flesh is simply raw material for his experiments. The Tarata are perhaps Bile's most infamous creations, aside from his work on standard Chaos Marines. These are enhanced warriors created through processes that push the boundaries of what can be called Space Marines at all. Bile subjects them to genetic modifications far beyond the standard 19 gene seed organs. Additional limbs might be grafted on, taken from other species, or grown in vats from modified human tissue. Neural implants heighten reflexes and pain tolerance to inhuman levels. Chemical treatments cause explosive muscle growth that leaves the Tarata larger and stronger than normal Chaos Marines, though their lifespan is often shortened by the stress these modifications place on their bodies. The Tarata serve as Bile's personal army and as proof of concept for his techniques. When other warbands seek his services, he can point to these warriors as examples of what he can create. The fact that many Tarata are unstable, prone to fits of rage or sudden physical breakdown, is conveniently downplayed. Those that survive long enough to prove their worth are exceptional killers, and that's what matters to the warbands that employ Bile's services. Bile does not give his services freely. He charges enormous fees, typically in the form of slaves, genetic material, or ancient technology. A warband seeking to rebuild its numbers might trade hundreds of captured humans for Bile's expertise in creating a dozen new Marines from their degraded gene seed. Those humans will not simply be killed. Bile will use them in his experiments, subjecting them to procedures that will leave most dead and the survivors twisted beyond recognition. But he will deliver the Marines he promised. And for many warbands, that transaction is worth any price. His cloning technology represents another crucial aspect of his work. Bile has claimed to have unlocked the secrets of the Emperor's early replicas experiments, the cloning techniques used to create the Primarchs and the first Space Marines. While he cannot clone Primarchs successfully in a way that preserves their essential nature, he has created clones of various Primarchs that serve as either mockeries or homages, depending on one's perspective. More importantly for the traitor legions, he can clone Space Marines, creating copies of exceptional warriors to bolster a warband's ranks. These clones are not perfect copies. The process of cloning often introduces errors, particularly when dealing with gene seed-enhanced individuals. Cloned Marines may be mentally unstable, lacking the memories and experience of their originals, or physically flawed in ways that don't become apparent until they're deployed in combat. But they're still Astartes, still superhumanly strong and durable, and they can be created in less time than it takes to transform a human recruit through traditional methods. For warbands desperate for numbers, cloned warriors are an attractive option despite their flaws. Bile has also pioneered techniques for salvaging gene seed from corpses that have been too damaged or too long dead for normal harvest. Loyalist apothecaries must harvest the progenoid glands within hours of death, and even then the gene seed must be properly preserved or it becomes useless. Bile has developed chemical treatments and minor warp sorcery that can coax viable genetic material from progenoid glands that have been rotting for weeks or even months. The resulting gene seed is heavily degraded and mutation-prone, but it can still sometimes be used to create new Marines when nothing else is available. His new men represent a different approach to the question of enhanced humanity. These are not Space Marines, but something else entirely. Enhanced humans created through methods that blend gene seed implantation with genetic engineering and selective breeding. The new men possess strength and intelligence superior to baseline humans, though still inferior to true Astartes. Bile envisions them as a successor species to humanity, one that has evolved beyond the need for gods or empires. He has seeded populations of new men on numerous worlds throughout the galaxy, hidden among human populations, waiting to one day supplant unmodified humans through natural selection. The Glandhounds are another of Bile's innovations, created through partial gene seed implantation in subjects who are too old or otherwise unsuitable for full transformation into Space Marines. These beings receive some of the Astartes' organs, particularly those enhancing physical strength and senses, but not enough to make them true Marines. They serve as shock troops, assassins, and hunters, often working in packs to take down targets that a single gland hound couldn't overcome. They're also useful for recovering gene seed from fallen Marines, as their enhanced senses can track Astartes over great distances, and their partial transformation makes them resistant to many of the dangers that would kill normal humans attempting such work. Bile's relationship with the various traitor legions and warbands is complex. He is in demand because of his skills, but he is also mistrusted because of his complete lack of loyalty to any cause beyond his own research. He has worked for the Word-Bearers, helping them create new Dark Apostles from captured slaves. He has aided the Black Legion in rebuilding their numbers after costly campaigns. He has traded his services to the Iron Warriors in exchange for technology and ancient genetic samples. But he has also betrayed warbands when it suited him, taken his payment and delivered nothing, or used his position to conduct unsanctioned experiments on his employer's warriors. Despite this, warbands continue to seek him out because alternatives are limited. Most chaos. Apothecaries lack Bile's skills and resources. They can perform standard gene seed implantation, harvest progenoid glands, and conduct basic field surgery, but they cannot work the dark miracles that Bile can. When a warband's gene seed stocks have degraded to the point where normal implantation fails more often than it succeeds, when they desperately need to rebuild after near annihilation, when they seek to create something special to turn the tide of a crucial battle, they turn to Fabius Bile. His survival across 10 millennia is itself remarkable. Bile's body is failing him constantly due to a genetic flaw that causes rapid degeneration. He has managed to sustain himself through the creation of multiple clones into which he transfers his consciousness when his current body fails. This neural network that preserves his mind is one of his greatest achievements, ensuring that his knowledge and skills persist even as individual bodies are used up. How many times he has been reborn in this fashion, even Bile himself may not remember. But each iteration continues his work, continues experimenting, continues pushing the boundaries of what can be done with flesh and gene seed. His ultimate goal, he claims, is to surpass the Emperor's achievement in creating the Primarchs and the Astartes. He wishes to prove that he can create superior beings through his own methods, without the need for the Emperor's genius or the resources of the ancient Imperium. Whether this goal is achievable or simply the delusion of a mind corrupted by 10,000 years of isolation and experimentation, none can say. But in pursuit of this goal, Bile has created countless new Chaos Marines and will doubtless create countless more before his story ends. The Daemoncolaba, horror incarnate. In the long and bloody history of the Chaos space, Marines, certain events stand out as particularly horrifying, even in a setting defined by atrocity. The Daemoncolaba, a method of Chaos Marine creation developed by the Iron Warriors warsmith Honshu on the daemon world of Medrengard, represents perhaps the single most disturbing process ever devised for creating new Astartes. Though it was ultimately destroyed, the Daemoncolaba serves as an example of just how far from any semblance of humanity the servants of chaos have fallen. Understanding this horror provides context for the depths of depravity that characterize Chaos Marine creation at its worst. The Daemoncolaba was the brainchild of Honshu, a half-breed Iron Warrior whose mixed gene seed heritage marked him as an outcast among his legion. After the Iron Warriors successfully raided the Imperial Fist's fortress world of Hydra Caudatus and stole massive quantities of gene seed, Honshu was given control of this resource. However, the gene seed alone was not enough. Standard implantation methods were too slow and had too high a failure rate for Honshu's ambitions. He needed a way to create new Iron Warriors rapidly, and he was willing to employ any method, no matter how vile, to achieve this goal. Working with corrupted members of the Adeptus Mechanicus known as Savage Morticians, Honshu developed a system that was as much a profanation of the sanctity of life as it was a piece of genetic engineering. The process began with the capture of human women from the slave populations on Medrengard. These women were shackled in iron cages and force-fed a special nutrient slurry that caused their bodies to bloat to grotesque proportions. Their limbs atrophied from disuse, and their bodies expanded until they could barely move, becoming living incubation chambers. The savage morticians then performed extensive surgical and chemical modifications on these women. Using a combination of traditional surgery, chemical treatments, and chaos-tainted sorcery, they altered the women's internal morphology and embedded stolen Imperial Fist's gene seed into their bodies. The exact mechanisms are mercifully unclear, but the result was that each woman became what was called a demoncolaba, a living birthing womb capable of transforming human adolescents into space marines through an accelerated and nightmarish process. Once a woman had been transformed into a demoncolaba, adolescent males taken from the slave populations were implanted within them through a procedure that can only be described as a reverse caesarean section. The demoncolaba was cut open without anesthetic. The young male was inserted into the cavity within her body. His limbs were stapled and sutured to the inside of the womb, and the incision was stitched closed. The host remained conscious throughout this procedure, able to feel everything as a foreign body was forced into her own. Over the course of several days, the gene seed within the demoncolaba would begin its work on the implanted adolescent. The transformation that normally took years was compressed into less than a week, through the unique biological processes the savage morticians had engineered. The subject's body would undergo rapid mutation and growth, expanding within the confines of the demoncolaba's body cavity. Finally, when the transformation was complete, the subject would tear its way free of the demoncolaba's flesh, in a birth that was always excruciating and sometimes fatal for the host. The newly created Chaos Marine would emerge skinless, a raw mass of muscle and bone without the protective covering that normal humans possess. Those deemed successful would be taken and have skin grafted onto their bodies. This skin was harvested from other slaves who had been deliberately bloated to enormous size, so their skin could be stretched and removed in large pieces. These slaves were flayed alive for this purpose, their deaths adding to the already staggering body count of the demoncolaba process. Once skinned, the new Marine could be armored and deployed. However, the success rate was abysmal even by Chaos standards. The accelerated transformation often went catastrophically wrong, producing subjects that were hideously mutated or simply died during the process. Some emerged with limbs that were atrophied or overgrown in wrong proportions. Others were conjoined with other subjects who had been implanted in the same demoncolaba. Still others were so badly mutated that they could do nothing but howl in agony, their bodies twisted into forms that could barely sustain life. These failures were called the unfleshed, and they were cast out into the wastelands of Medrengard, where they formed feral packs that haunted the dark places of the demon world. For the demoncolaba themselves, survival of the birthing process was not release, but simply a return to the cycle. If a woman survived one birth, she would be used again and again and again until trauma, blood loss, infection, or botched surgery finally killed her. The average survival was perhaps 3 to 5 birthings, though records are naturally unclear. Each birth was an experience of unimaginable suffering, and death, when it finally came, must have seemed like mercy. The system could also process genetic material extracted from dead space marines of any chapter or legion. Corpses were put through crushers, rollers, and other machinery that rendered them down into a gene seed-rich paste that could be fed intravenously to the demoncolaba. This allowed Honshu to make use of genetic material that would normally be useless, though it further destabilized an already horrifically unstable process. The scale of the demoncolaba operation was substantial. Honshu maintained hundreds of these living wombs within his fortress of Kalangol, with new marines being created at a rate that would have been miraculous if the cost in suffering hadn't been so obscene. In the few years the Demonkolaba operated, it produced a significant force of new iron warriors, giving Honshu the strength to become a major power within the fractious politics of Medrengard. The Demonkolaba was ultimately destroyed by Captain Uriel Ventris of the Ultramarines and his companion, Sergeant Pesanius Lysane. These two space marines, having violated the Codex Astartes and been sent on a suicide mission as penance, found their way to Medrengard and discovered the horror of the Demonkolaba. With the aid of the unfleshed, those tragic failures of the process who still retained enough humanity to be horrified by what they had become, Ventris and Pesanius destroyed the Demonkolaba chambers and freed what slaves they could. During this mission, Ventris himself was briefly trapped within a Demonkolaba. The gene seed within it extracted some of his genetic material and memories, creating a twisted clone known as the Newborn. This creature would later become one of Honshu's most valuable assets, as it carried Ventris's memories, including full knowledge of Ultramar's defenses. Honshu would use this information in his later invasion of Ultramar, demonstrating that even in destruction, the Demonkolaba left a poisonous legacy. The destruction of the Demonkolaba was a victory, but it was not total. Honshu escaped and swore vengeance. More importantly, the knowledge of how to create such a system survived with him and with the savage morticians who had helped design it. While no other Demonkolaba on the same scale has been discovered since, the techniques could potentially be replicated by anyone sufficiently skilled and sufficiently depraved. The fact that it was created at all demonstrates that there are no depths to which chaos will not sink in pursuit of victory. The Demonkolaba represents the absolute nadir of chaos space marine creation, a method so evil that it transcends simple military pragmatism and becomes an act of deliberate torture and dehumanization. Even among the traitor legions, many viewed it with disgust, but disgust did not stop them from using the marines it produced. Honshu's warriors fought in the same campaigns as other Iron Warriors, and few asked where they had come from or what horrors had attended their birth. The Demonkolaba serves as a reminder that the question of how Chaos Space Marines are made is not simply one of technical process, but of moral descent. Each method of creation, from the merely brutal to the utterly abominable, represents a step away from any conception of human dignity or compassion. The men who become Chaos Marines through these methods are not noble warriors who chose a different path. They are victims transformed into victimizers, their humanity stripped away before they even understood what they were losing, and the galaxy is darker for their existence. Warp corruption and mutation. The creation of a Chaos Space Marine is not complete when the last gene seed organ has been implanted and the black carapace has hardened beneath the skin. Indeed, in many ways, the transformation has only just begun. Unlike Loyalist Space Marines, whose physical form remains relatively stable after their initial creation, Chaos Marines undergo continuous transformation throughout their existence. This ongoing mutation is driven by exposure to the corrupting energies of the warp and the attention of the Chaos Gods themselves. Understanding this process of corruption is essential to understanding what Chaos Marines truly are. The warp, also known as the Imperium or the Sea of Souls, is a parallel dimension that underlies real space. It is formed from the psychic emanations of sentient beings throughout the galaxy, a realm where thoughts and emotions take on reality and where the laws of physics hold little sway. Within the warp dwell entities of pure psychic energy, including the four great Chaos Gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh. Exposure to the warp's energies is inherently transformative and corrupting. For normal humans, even brief unprotected exposure can result in mutation, madness, or death. For Space Marines, with their enhanced physiology and mental conditioning, the process is more gradual, but no less inevitable. The Chaos Space Marines make their homes in regions where the barrier between real space and the warp is thin or non-existent. The Eye of Terror, a massive warp rift created by the fall of the Eldar race, is the primary refuge of the traitor legions. Within the Eye, the laws of reality are suggestions rather than rules. Time flows strangely, or not at all. Space folds in on itself in impossible geometries, and the energies of the warp saturate everything, seeping into flesh and armor and soul. For the Chaos Marines who dwell there, mutation is not a possibility, but a certainty. The only question is what form it will take. The speed and nature of warp-induced mutation depends on several factors. The first is the individual's resistance, which is largely a matter of willpower and faith. Those who firmly reject chaos and maintain their sense of self can resist mutation for longer periods. Ironically, this means that some of the most atheistic and cynical traitor legions, like the Night Lords and Iron Warriors, show less physical corruption than those who enthusiastically embrace chaos worship. They may spend centuries or even millennia in the Eye of Terror while showing only minor mutations. Conversely, those who open themselves fully to chaos, actively seeking the gifts of the dark gods, can be transformed in days or hours. The second factor is proximity to sources of warp energy. Living on a demon world, where reality itself is compromised, accelerates mutation far more than dwelling in a relatively stable region of space. Participating in dark rituals, making pacts with demons, or spending time near warp artifacts all increase exposure. Even among Chaos Marines, there's a recognition that some places and practices are more corrupting than others, and more pragmatic. Warbands try to limit their exposure when possible. The third factor is the attention of the Chaos Gods themselves. The Dark Gods can choose to mutate their followers, granting them what they call gifts, but what others might call curses. These mutations can be rewards for service, tests of loyalty, or simply the whims of entities for whom mortal suffering is entertainment. A warrior who has served Khorne well might find himself granted additional strength, the ability to ignore wounds that would fell others, or a skull that becomes fused with his helmet. A sorcerer who has pleased Tzeentch might sprout additional eyes, gain the ability to see possible futures, or have his very form become mutable and unstable. The physical manifestations of warp corruption vary enormously. Some mutations are relatively minor, a change in skin color or eye color, unusual texture to the skin, or slight alterations in facial features. Others are more dramatic, additional limbs, horns or spines protruding from the body, flesh that becomes translucent, revealing organs beneath, or tentacles, replacing hands. In extreme cases, Chaos Marines may become so mutated that they're barely recognizable as having once been human. Their bodies might become amalgamations of flesh, machine, and demonic essence, walking blasphemies against the natural order. The armor of chaos. Marines mutates alongside their flesh. Power armor is more than simple protective equipment. It contains a machine spirit, a fragment of artificial intelligence that helps manage the armor's systems. When exposed to warp energies, these machine spirits can become corrupted or possessed. The armor begins to grow and change, developing organic components that blur the line between machine and flesh. Spikes and horns erupt from shoulder pads. Helmets reshape themselves into demonic visages. The armor's energy field takes on colors that shouldn't exist in real space. In time, the armor and the Marine wearing it can become so thoroughly fused that removing the armor would mean removing portions of the Marine's body. Weapons undergo similar transformations. A chainsword might develop organic teeth that grow back when damaged. A bolter might learn to scream with the voices of those it has killed. A power fist might develop a hungry sentience that demands to crush and rend. These changes often enhance the weapon's effectiveness in combat, but they also make the weapon unpredictable and sometimes dangerous to its wielder. a Chaos Marine must learn to work with his equipment's emerging personality, or else risk it turning against him at a crucial moment. Psychological mutation accompanies physical changes. The warp erodes sanity as surely as it corrupts flesh. Chaos. Marines often develop obsessions, compulsions, or personality traits that grow more extreme over time. A warrior might become fixated on collecting skulls from his victims, unable to feel satisfaction unless he takes this particular trophy. Another might develop an addiction to the sensation of killing, requiring ever more violent acts to achieve the same satisfaction. Fear, compassion, and other emotions that might cause hesitation are often the first things to erode, leaving warriors who can commit atrocities without remorse or second thought. Memory becomes unreliable under the influence of warp corruption. Chaos. Marines who have spent subjective centuries in the Eye of Terror may have difficulty distinguishing their actual history from false memories implanted by warp exposure. They might remember versions of battles that never happened, or forget crucial events from their past. Some have lived so long and changed so much that they no longer remember what they were like as humans, or even what they were like as newly created Space Marines. Their identity has been dissolved in the acid of chaos and reconstructed into something alien to their original nature. The line between mutation and demonic possession can become blurred. Some Chaos Marines actively seek possession, offering their bodies as vessels for demons in exchange for power. These possessed Marines gain access to demonic abilities like moving through walls, manifesting warp fire, or changing their shape at will. However, they also lose autonomy as the demon within them exerts influence over their actions. In extreme cases, the demon may take full control, leaving the Marine's original consciousness trapped as a passenger in his own body, able to perceive but unable to act. Not all mutations are beneficial, even by the warped standards of chaos. Many are actively detrimental, reducing the Marine's combat effectiveness or making normal life impossible. A warrior might develop eyes that cannot close, leaving him unable to rest. Another might find his bones becoming brittle, despite enhanced durability, leading to frequent fractures. Mutations that continue unchecked can render a Chaos Marine unable to function, transforming him into a creature that can no longer wear armor, wield weapons, or even move under its own power. This fate, the loss of all control and identity to mutation, is called spawndom. A Chaos Marine who accrues too many mutations, who opens himself too fully to warp energies without the strength to control them, risks degenerating into a chaos spawn. These creatures were once warriors, but have become mindless masses of constantly shifting flesh, capable only of basic predatory behavior. They are herded into battle as shock troops, or left to wander demon worlds, living warnings of what happens to those who cannot master the gifts of the dark gods. Spawndom is the ultimate fate that awaits many Chaos Marines who survive long enough. It represents the final dissolution of their identity, and the complete victory of chaos over whatever they once were. Yet despite all these risks and horrors, Chaos Marines continue to embrace mutation. For some, it represents power that cannot be gained through normal means. For others, it's a mark of divine favor, proof that they have been chosen by the gods for great things. For still others, it's simply inevitable, an unavoidable consequence of the path they have chosen. They were transformed into inhuman warriors when they received their gene seed. Warp mutation is merely the continuation of that process, another step in their ongoing departure from baseline humanity. And in a perverse way, it represents freedom. Freedom from the limitations of flesh, freedom from the constraints of sanity, freedom from any moral compass that might cause doubt or hesitation. They become more than human, which also means becoming less than human, until finally, there's something that cannot be judged by human standards at all. The 4 paths, Legion-specific methods. While all Chaos Space Marines undergo the basic process of gene seed implantation and subsequent corruption by the warp, the specific methods and results vary considerably between the different traitor legions. Each legion has developed its own traditions, techniques, and relationships with the Chaos Gods that shape how they create new Marines and what those Marines become. Understanding these different approaches provides insight into the diverse nature of Chaos Marine creation and the various paths that lead to damnation. The Death Guard, perhaps more than any other traitor legion, exemplify how Chaos worship can completely transform the process of creating Space Marines. When Mortarion led his legion into Nurgle's service during the Horus Heresy, he did so to save them from a plague that was killing them in the void. Nurgle granted them immunity to death and disease, but at the cost of making them living hosts to countless infections. Now every Death Guard Marine is a walking plague vector, his body riddled with diseases that would kill any normal organism, but that merely enrich and strengthen him. The creation of new Death Guard Marines involves infecting recruits with Nurgle's plagues as part of the transformation process. The standard gene seed organs are implanted, but so too are various disease pathogens, some natural and others spawned directly from the warp. The recruit's body becomes a battleground as the diseases fight for dominance, and the enhanced immune system granted by Astartes' physiology struggles to adapt. Most recruits die screaming, their bodies consumed by infections that liquefy organs or cause flesh to rot while they still live. Those who survive emerge as plague marines, their bodies swollen and corrupt, but also impossibly resilient. They feel no pain from their constant state of decay. Their enhanced constitution allows them to function despite injuries that would incapacitate normal Marines. They can survive in toxic environments that would kill even other Astartes, and they carry with them clouds of infection that spread disease to all who come near. They are walking contradictions, dead but alive, rotting but strong, filled with sickness, yet more durable than healthy warriors. This is Nurgle's greatest joke and his most powerful gift. The Thousand Sons follow a fundamentally different path, one shaped by their curse and by the catastrophic consequences of trying to overcome it. The Legion was always prone to mutation due to a flaw in their gene seed, a curse that predated their fall to chaos. When Magnus the Red made his pact with Tzeentch, the god of change, it seemed to stabilize this mutation for a time. But Tzeentch, being the god of change and schemes, could not be trusted. Eventually, the mutations returned worse than ever, threatening to destroy the entire Legion. The Rubric of Ahriman, a galaxy-spanning spell cast by the chief librarian Ahriman, was meant to save the Thousand Sons from mutation. It succeeded, after a fashion. Those Thousand Sons with psychic ability were stabilized, their mutations halted, and in some cases reversed. But those without psychic power suffered a different fate. Their bodies were reduced to dust, their souls bound into their armor. These Rubric Marines are animated suits of armor filled with ash, capable of following orders and fighting with all their old skill, but possessing no will or personality of their own. They are eternal servants, unable to die because they're already dead. Creating new Thousand Sons in the current era is therefore less about implanting gene seed and more about binding souls into armor. The sorcerers who lead the warbands must find souls to fuel their Rubric Marines, typically through dark rituals that trap the dying or enslave demons into the empty suits of armor. New sorcerers are created through the standard process of gene seed implantation, but only those who show psychic potential survive the transformation. Those without such power are killed by the mutation the gene seed induces, or are turned into more Rubric Marines through mystical means. The Thousand Sons have become a legion of sorcerers, served by legions of hollow automatons, their pursuit of knowledge having transformed them into something barely alive. The World Eaters represent perhaps the most straightforward and brutal approach to creating new Chaos Marines. This legion cares nothing for subtlety or sorcery. They worship Horn, the blood god, who demands only blood and skulls. The World Eaters were already savage warriors before their fall, having been implanted with the Butcher's Nails, archaeotech neural implants that Angron, their primarch, had received as a slave gladiator. These implants stimulate aggression and convert all pain into rage, making the World Eaters fearless and relentless, but also gradually destroying their capacity for anything beyond violence. When the World Eaters create new Marines, they implant the butcher's nails along with the standard gene seed organs. The psychological effects of these implants are immediate and devastating. Recruits who might have retained some measure of humanity are reduced to barely controlled berserkers. Within weeks, they lose the ability to feel pleasure from anything except violence. They become addicted to the sensation of killing, needing to shed blood regularly, or else suffer withdrawal-like symptoms. Their higher brain functions deteriorate over time as the nails dig deeper into their neural tissue. The advantage of this approach is that it creates warriors of terrifying effectiveness in close combat. A World Eater in the grip of his nails is nearly unstoppable, fighting with a frenzy that allows him to ignore wounds that would fell other Marines. The disadvantage is that they are difficult to control and impossible to use in situations requiring strategy or restraint. They are weapons that must be pointed at the enemy and unleashed, then collected after the killing is done. Many World Eaters eventually degenerate into little more than rabid animals, useful only for suicide charges or for being unleashed as living weapons of mass destruction. The Emperor's children pursue an entirely different philosophy in their corruption. Devoted to Slanesh, the dark prince of pleasure and excess, they seek to experience every possible sensation, to push themselves beyond all limitations in pursuit of perfection. Their recruitment and transformation processes have become elaborate rituals designed to introduce recruits to sensation in ways that will break them properly. Gene seed implantation is merely the beginning. The real transformation comes through a program of carefully orchestrated experiences that teach the recruit to chase sensation above all else. Recruits are subjected to both exquisite pleasure and extreme pain, often simultaneously. They are given drugs that heighten sensation to impossible levels. They are made to participate in acts that would horrify normal humans until they become desensitized to normal morality. The goal is to create warriors who are addicted to experience, who will do anything to achieve new sensations because they can no longer feel satisfaction from normal life. These noise Marines, as some of them become, are armed with sonic weapons that allow them to weaponize sound itself, killing enemies with pure sensory overload while experiencing pleasure from the cacophony. The transformation often involves physical modifications beyond standard gene seed implantation. Nerve endings might be multiplied across the body's surface. New sense organs might be grown. Portions of the brain responsible for pleasure and pain are rewired to blur the distinction between the two. The result is a warrior who can fight effectively in conditions that would overwhelm normal Marines because pain only makes them stronger, and who pursues combat not out of duty or even ambition, but out of sheer addiction to the sensations it provides. The Word-Bearers, the first legion to fall to chaos, approach creation of new Marines as a religious sacrament. Their dark apostles, corrupted versions of chaplains, preside over every stage of transformation, with elaborate rituals. Gene seed implantation is accompanied by prayers to the dark gods. Indoctrination is a matter of religious education, teaching recruits that the Emperor is a false god and that only through chaos can true enlightenment be achieved. The Word-Bearers worship chaos undivided, venerating all four of the great chaos gods as aspects of a greater truth, and they teach this faith to all who join their ranks. Their recruitment often draws from chaos cults that the Word-Bearers have seeded on imperial worlds. These cultists have already been indoctrinated in the worship of chaos, making them receptive subjects for transformation. The children of cultists are raised with prayers to the dark gods, prepared from birth for the possibility of ascension into the ranks of the heretic Astartes. When the time comes for transformation, they go willingly, seeing it as the greatest honor that can be bestowed. This willing participation often increases survival rates, because the recruits don't resist the corruption that accompanies gene seed implantation. The word bearers also maintain extensive records and rituals related to the process. Where other legions might take shortcuts or improvise when resources are limited, the word bearers insist on following proper protocols. They view the creation of a new marine as too important to be left to chance or individual whim. This gives them some advantages in consistency and success rates, though it also makes their process slower than that of some other warbands. But for the word bearers, creating marines is not simply about adding numbers to their ranks. It's about forging true believers who will carry the word of chaos to all corners of the galaxy, and that requires proper devotion to the ritual. Other traitor legions and renegade warbands have their own variations on these themes. The Iron Warriors, pragmatic and disdainful of chaos worship, create marines through the most efficient means possible while trying to limit mutation through bionic replacement. The Night Lords, who never fully embraced chaos worship, focus on psychological indoctrination that teaches new recruits to use terror as a weapon. The Alpha Legion, mysterious and duplicitous, may have recruitment methods that none outside their ranks truly understand. Each path leads to the same destination, the creation of warriors who have abandoned any loyalty to the Imperium and who serve chaos in one form or another. But the journey shapes what those warriors become and how they wage the long war. Modern recruitment challenges. In the current era, 10,000 years after the Horus Heresy, the Chaos Space Marines face numerous challenges in maintaining and expanding their numbers. While the basic methods of gene seed implantation remain available to them, the resources and circumstances that make this possible have changed dramatically. Understanding these challenges provides crucial context for why Chaos Marines employ such varied and, often, desperate methods to create new warriors, and why their numbers remain limited despite millennia of warfare. The most fundamental challenge is gene seed scarcity. Unlike Loyalist chapters, which receive their founding stock of gene seed from the Adeptus Mechanicus on Mars, and can tithe new gene seed at regular intervals to maintain central stocks, the Chaos Space Marines are cut off from any such support. Every single progenoid gland must be harvested from fallen Marines, and every loss in battle represents not just a dead warrior, but also the potential loss of gene seed that could create 2 more Marines. When a Chaos Marine dies and his body cannot be recovered, his gene seed is lost forever. This creates a vicious cycle. Warbands that suffer heavy casualties lose warriors and the ability to replace them. This makes them weaker, which makes them more likely to suffer further casualties. Small warbands can be wiped out entirely in a single disastrous engagement, their gene seed lost with them. Even large warbands must husband their gene seed carefully, viewing each successful harvest from fallen brothers as a precious resource that can never be taken for granted. Chaos. Apothecaries have standing orders to recover gene seed before any other consideration in battle, even if it means abandoning wounded warriors who might otherwise be saved. The degradation and corruption of traitor gene seed compounds this scarcity. 10,000 years of exposure to the warp has not been kind to the genetic material that makes Space Marine creation possible. Mutations accumulate in the gene seed with each generation, like errors in a corrupted data file being copied over and over. Some gene seed organs no longer function correctly. Others produce unstable results, creating Marines who are prone to spontaneous mutation or organ failure. The success rate of gene seed implantation drops with each passing century as the genetic material becomes more degraded. Different legions face this problem to different degrees. The Death Guard's gene seed is saturated with Nurgle's influence, making it highly unstable, but also giving it a certain resilience through the power of disease. The Thousand Sons gene seed carries a mutation that causes spontaneous psychic awakening in recipients, limiting who can safely receive it. The Emperor's Children's gene seed often produces Marines with sensory distortions and obsessive personalities. The World Eater's gene seed, combined with the Butcher's nails, creates warriors who are difficult to control and prone to short, brutal lives. Each legion must work around these limitations, finding recruits who can survive their particular brand of corruption. This genetic degradation makes Loyalist gene seed extraordinarily valuable. When Chaos forces successfully raid a Space Marine fortress monastery or defeat a Loyalist force in battle, recovering untainted gene seed from the dead becomes a top priority. Such gene seed can be implanted into recruits with much higher success rates than corrupted traitor gene seed. Of course, this gene seed will itself become corrupted over time as its recipients are exposed to chaos, but initially it provides a crucial boost to a warband's ability to create new Marines. Major gene seed raids, like Honsu's theft from Hydra Caudatus, are landmark events that can sustain a warband for decades or centuries. The lack of infrastructure creates additional challenges. Loyalist chapters maintain fortress monasteries with dedicated facilities for training and transforming recruits. They have apothecarians staffed by expert apothecaries who have spent decades perfecting their craft. They have chapter serfs who handle logistics and maintenance, freeing the Space Marines to focus on warfare and training. The Chaos warbands have none of this. They operate from demon worlds where reality itself is unstable, from space hulks that barely maintain structural integrity, or from hidden bases in the dark corners of the galaxy where they must constantly watch for enemies. Creating new Marines in such conditions is extraordinarily difficult. Sterility, crucial for preventing infections during surgery, is nearly impossible to achieve on a demon world where the very air carries warp taint. Temperature and atmospheric control, important for maintaining gene seed viability, are luxuries that many warbands simply cannot afford. Even basic medical supplies must be scavenged or stolen. The apothecaries who perform implantations often work with whatever tools and materials they can acquire, adapting Imperial medical equipment or creating crude substitutes from what's available. The shortage of qualified apothecaries represents another significant limitation. The apothecarian of each traitor legion suffered casualties during the heresy and in the millennia since. Every dead apothecary represents lost knowledge and skills that may never be replaced. Training new apothecaries requires an experienced mentor, time, and resources, none of which are abundant in Chaos warbands. Many warbands have only one or two apothecaries, sometimes none at all. When they need to create new Marines, they must trade with other warbands for the services of an apothecary, or seek out specialists like Fabius Bile. Competition between warbands further complicates recruitment efforts. The traitor legions are not unified forces, but collections of independent warbands that are as likely to fight each other as to cooperate. Gene seed, slaves, and resources are all subject to being taken by rival warbands. A warband that has invested time and effort into acquiring and preparing recruits for transformation may find those recruits stolen by a rival before the process can be completed. Alliances between warbands are temporary and fragile, often breaking down over disputes about resource allocation or the division of spoils. The unpredictable nature of time in the Eye of Terror creates its own set of problems. Warbands that enter the Eye to rebuild their strength may emerge to find that centuries or even millennia have passed in real space, rendering their strategic position obsolete. Conversely, what seems like centuries spent building up forces might be only days in real space, requiring warbands to maintain constant vigilance against Imperial counterattacks. Planning long-term recruitment programs becomes nearly impossible when time itself cannot be relied upon to flow consistently. Despite all these challenges, the Chaos Space Marines endure. They have survived 10,000 years of constant warfare, adapting their methods and finding new ways to create Marines when old ways fail. Some warbands have formed pacts with demon forges in the Eye of Terror, trading service for access to better facilities and resources. Others have established hidden bases in real space, taking the risk of discovery in exchange for more stable operating conditions. Still others have simply accepted high attrition rates as the price of their existence, focusing on acquiring the most skilled and capable warriors rather than trying to match loyalist numbers. The introduction of Primaris Space Marines by Archmagos Belisarius Call has created new opportunities and challenges for Chaos forces. These enhanced Marines represent a leap forward in Space Marine capabilities, making them highly valuable targets for Gene Seed raids. However, Primaris Gene Seed has proven difficult for Chaos forces to work with. Its complexity and the additional organs it includes require expertise that few Chaos apothecaries possess. Fabius Bile has reportedly made some progress in understanding and replicating Primaris creation, but his successes remain limited and the results often unstable. The Great Rift's opening has paradoxically both helped and hindered Chaos recruitment efforts. The massive warp storm has isolated large swathes of Imperial space, making some worlds easier to raid while cutting off others entirely. It has also spread warp corruption more widely through the galaxy, potentially creating new sources of recruits among human populations that have been exposed to chaos. However, it has also galvanized Imperial resistance and brought Primarchs back to lead the Loyalist forces, making successful raids more difficult and more costly. Modern Chaos. Marine recruitment is thus a story of adaptation and survival against overwhelming odds. Every new Marine created represents a victory over scarcity, corruption, and the hostility of a galaxy that wants them dead. The methods may be brutal, the success rates low, and the results often unstable, but they work well enough to ensure that the traitor legions endure. The long war continues, and as long as there are Chaos Marines to fight it, as long as Gene Seed can be harvested and implanted, and as long as the Dark Gods smile upon their servants, new warriors will continue to emerge from the darkness to carry on the eternal conflict. Transformation and ascension. The process of creating a Chaos Space Marine does not end when the Gene Seed has been successfully implanted and the recruit survives the initial transformation. Indeed, for those who serve Chaos, transformation is an ongoing process that continues throughout their existence. From the moment they emerge from the implantation process to their eventual fate, whether that be death in battle, ascension to demonhood, or degeneration into a Chaos spawn, Chaos Marines are constantly changing and evolving. Understanding this trajectory provides crucial insight into what drives these warriors and what they ultimately become. A recruit who survives Gene Seed implantation emerges as something more than human, but not yet a true Chaos Marine in the fullest sense. His body has been transformed into a superhuman weapon, yes, but his mind and soul have only begun their journey into darkness. The next phase of transformation is primarily psychological and spiritual, as the new Marine is integrated into his warband's culture and begins to truly embrace chaos. This indoctrination varies between warbands, but generally follows certain patterns. The new Marine must prove himself in battle, demonstrating not just martial prowess, but also the ruthlessness and dedication to chaos that marks a true servant of the Dark Gods. He will be assigned the most dangerous tasks, sent into situations where survival is unlikely, used as expendable shock troops or reconnaissance forces. This serves multiple purposes. It tests his capabilities, it minimizes the loss if he fails and dies, and it hardens him through exposure to warfare's horrors. Those who survive these early trials earn a measure of respect and may be given better equipment and more important roles. Simultaneously, the new Marine is educated in his warband's philosophy and methods. If he serves the Word-bearers, he learns the rituals and prayers of chaos worship, studying dark texts and participating in ceremonies that invoke the chaos gods. If he serves the Emperor's children, he's introduced to new sensations and experiences that cultivate the addiction to excess that characterizes that legion. If he serves the World Eaters, he learns to embrace the rage the butcher's nails generate, to ride the wave of violence rather than being consumed by it. Each warband has its own traditions, and the new Marine must master them to be accepted as a true brother. During this period, physical mutations often begin to manifest more obviously. The combination of warp exposure during transformation and ongoing exposure in the warband's operating environment causes changes that mark the Marine as chaos-tainted. These might start as small things: a change in eye color, unusual patterns in the skin, hair falling out or growing in strange ways. Over time, they progress to more dramatic alterations. Horns might begin to push through the skull. Extra limbs might bud from shoulders or back. Armor and flesh begin the slow process of fusion that will eventually make them indistinguishable. For many Chaos Marines, this stage of transformation lasts decades or centuries. They fight battles, gain experience, and slowly become more capable warriors. They form bonds with their warband brothers, though these bonds are typically based on mutual advantage and respect for combat prowess, rather than the brotherhood unto death that characterizes loyalist chapters. They acquire better war gear, either through battlefield salvage, trade, or gifts from superiors. They may receive their first real gifts from the Chaos Gods: enhanced strength, unnatural resilience, or access to minor warp powers. The relationship between Chaos Marines and the Dark Gods is complex and transactional. The gods offer power, immortality, and the chance for glory beyond anything the Imperium could provide. In exchange, they demand worship, service, and souls. Some Chaos Marines embrace this bargain eagerly, actively seeking the attention of their chosen god through acts of devotion. Others are more cautious, accepting gifts when offered, but wary of owing too much to entities that view mortals as pawns in incomprehensible games. The most successful Chaos Marines learn to balance ambition with caution, taking what the gods offer while maintaining enough independence to avoid becoming merely another demon's puppet. Exceptional warriors may begin to rise through their warband's ranks. They might be given command of squads, then companies, then entire warbands if they prove capable enough and ruthless enough to take and hold power. Leadership among Chaos Marines is rarely granted based on seniority or formal appointment, as it might be in loyalist chapters. Instead, it's taken through strength, cunning, and the favor of the Dark Gods. A Marine who wants to command must prove himself superior to his current commanders, either by accomplishing great deeds that make his elevation inevitable, or by simply killing those above him and seizing their position. This meritocracy of violence creates a brutal but effective system where only the most capable warriors rise to leadership. It also means that Chaos Marine forces are led by individuals who have proven themselves in the most extreme circumstances. A Chaos Lord who commands a warband has typically survived centuries or millennia of warfare and internal power struggles. He has climbed over the corpses of rivals and enemies alike to reach his position. He may be mad, mutated, and barely recognizable as having once been human, but he is undeniably dangerous. For those who reach the heights of power and success, two potential destinies await. The first is ascension to demonhood, the ultimate reward that the Chaos Gods can offer. A Marine who has served sufficiently well, who has offered enough skulls to Khorne, or spread enough plague for Nurgle, or schemed enough schemes for Tzeentch, or pursued enough excess for Slaanesh may be granted apotheosis. His physical form is consumed and reborn as a demon prince, an immortal entity of warp stuff that exists partially in real space and partially in the immaterium. Demon princes are among the most powerful servants of chaos, capable of feats that would be impossible for mere mortal marines. They can manifest warp powers that rival those of the greatest psykers, command legions of demons, and survive injuries that would destroy normal bodies. They are immortal in a very real sense, as even if their material form is destroyed, their essence returns to the warp to eventually rematerialize. However, ascension to demonhood comes at a terrible price. The Marine's humanity, whatever remained of it, is lost completely. He becomes something fundamentally alien, a creature of pure chaos that exists only to serve his patron god's will. He can no longer truly die, but he can also never truly rest. He is bound to his God's service for eternity, a slave whose chains are forged from ambition and pride. Many Chaos Marines pursue this goal, seeing it as the ultimate achievement, but it's unclear whether they understand what they're truly seeking, or if they're simply caught up in the addiction to power that Chaos cultivates in its servants. The second destiny is far less glorious. Those who fail to achieve demonhood but continue to accumulate mutations and warp taint face eventual degeneration into Chaos spawn. This represents the complete loss of identity and sanity, as the body becomes unable to maintain any stable form and the mind is overwhelmed by the sheer weight of accumulated corruption. Chaos spawn are barely sentient masses of constantly mutating flesh, capable only of basic predatory behavior. They are used as shock troops or left to wander demon worlds, tragic monuments to ambition that exceeded capability. Many Chaos Marines fear spawndom more than death, as it represents not just the end of life, but the complete annihilation of self. Between these two extremes lies a third path, perhaps the most common: eternal service in the long war without achieving either ascension or degradation. Many Chaos Marines simply continue fighting, year after year, century after century, growing more powerful and more corrupted, but never quite achieving the level of service needed for demonhood, while managing to maintain enough control to avoid spawndom. They become eternal warriors, transhuman veterans who have fought in more battles than most humans could comprehend. Time becomes meaningless to them. They may no longer remember when they were mortal or even what it felt like to be human. Their entire existence is defined by warfare and the pursuit of whatever goal or vendetta drives them forward. Some Chaos Marines become so saturated with warp energy that they achieve a kind of quasi-immortality without ascending to demonhood. They're killed in battle only to reform from warp stuff days or weeks later, their consciousness preserved by the attention of the dark gods. Others survive through more mundane means: superior skill, better equipment, or simply being cautious enough to avoid unnecessary risks while their brothers die around them. The oldest Chaos Marines are veteran survivors of the Horus heresy itself, warriors who have been fighting the Long War since its beginning 10,000 years ago. They are living legends, their names spoken with respect or fear across the galaxy, and they represent both the pinnacle of what a Chaos Marine can become and the ultimate proof of how far from humanity one can fall. The transformation from human to Chaos Marine to something beyond is thus not a single process, but a journey that continues as long as the Marine exists. It is a path of constant change, driven by warp corruption, personal ambition, and the demands of the dark gods. Some race down this path eagerly, seeking power at any cost. Others walk it reluctantly, changed despite their resistance. But all who walk it find themselves moving inexorably away from what they were and towards something alien and terrible. This is the true meaning of being a Chaos Space Marine, not just having been created through corrupted methods, but being in a state of continuous corruption, always becoming something else, never able to return to what was lost. Conclusion: Eternal Warriors of Ruin. We have journeyed through the darkness that births the Chaos Space Marines, from their origins in the Horus heresy to the brutal methods by which they are created in the current age. We've examined the gene seed that forms their physical foundation, the horrific methods by which recruits are acquired and transformed, the specialized techniques employed by different legions, and the ongoing corruption that continues throughout their existence. What emerges from this examination is a picture of warriors who represent the ultimate perversion of the Emperor's vision, superhuman soldiers twisted by 10,000 years of hatred and exposure to forces that defy comprehension. The creation of a Chaos Space Marine is not a single act, but an ongoing process of corruption and transformation. It begins with the theft or degradation of gene seed that was meant to create humanity's defenders. It continues with the brutal implantation of that gene seed into recruits taken as slaves, subjected to accelerated procedures that prioritize speed over safety, and indoctrinated with hatred for the Imperium they might once have served. It progresses through centuries of warfare, warp exposure, and the accumulation of mutations that gradually strip away whatever humanity remained. And it potentially culminates in either ascension to daemonhood, degeneration into mindless spawndom, or eternal service in the Long War. What makes the Chaos Space Marines such enduring threats is not just their individual power, though a single Chaos Marine can pose a significant danger to any Imperial force. Rather, it's their combination of superhuman abilities, millennia of combat experience, and complete freedom from moral constraints. They are not simply evil or misguided. They have moved beyond such simple categorizations to become something fundamentally alien to human values. They pursue goals that might seem incomprehensible: the favor of gods who offer only damnation, the destruction of an Imperium they once served, the accumulation of power for its own sake. But within their twisted framework, these goals make perfect sense. The methods by which they are created reflect this fundamental corruption. Where loyalist Space Marines are created through years of careful transformation under the guidance of apothecaries who view their role as sacred duty, Chaos Marines are manufactured through procedures that treat human life as raw material to be consumed in pursuit of military strength. The Demoncolaba represents the logical endpoint of this philosophy, where even the pretense of caring about the subject's suffering is abandoned in favor of maximum efficiency. But even more standard Chaos Marine creation is marked by cruelty, carelessness, and a complete disregard for the sanctity of human life. Yet despite all the challenges they face, the scarcity of resources, the degradation of gene seed, the lack of infrastructure, and the constant internal conflicts, the Chaos Space Marines endure. They have survived for 10 millennia, longer than many civilizations have existed. They continue to recruit, create new Marines, and wage war across the galaxy. Every Imperial world faces the possibility of a chaos raid that will carry away its children to be transformed into monsters. Every battlefield where Space Marines fall presents an opportunity for gene seed theft. Every moment of doubt or despair in a loyalist Marine's heart is a crack through which corruption might enter. The opening of the Great Rift has only intensified this threat. Warp energies now flow more freely through real space than at any time since the Horus Heresy. Demon worlds spill their corrupted inhabitants into Imperial space. Entire sectors have been cut off from the light of the Astronomicon, left vulnerable to the predations of chaos. The Chaos Space Marines, long exiled to the Eye of Terror, now range freely across the galaxy once more. And with this renewed freedom comes renewed opportunity to create new Marines, to corrupt loyalist warriors, and to bring more and more of humanity under the sway of chaos. Understanding how Chaos Space Marines are made is crucial to understanding the threat they pose. They are not simply Space Marines who chose the wrong side in a civil war. They are the products of systematic corruption, warriors created through methods that would horrify even those who know the grim realities of the Imperium. Each one represents not just military strength, but also a victory for chaos over the Emperor's vision of ordered humanity. They are walking monuments to how far humanity can fall when it abandons the light of reason and embraces the darkness of the warp. The long war continues, and as long as gene seed can be stolen, recruits can be taken, and the dark gods offer their twisted gifts, new Chaos Marines will continue to emerge from the darkness. They will bear the marks of their creation in their corrupted flesh and twisted souls. They will wage war against the Imperium with a bitterness born of 10,000 years of hatred. And they will serve as a constant reminder that humanity's greatest weapons can become its deadliest enemies when they fall from grace. This has been an exploration of how Chaos Space Marines are made, a journey through the dark machinery that transforms humans into transhuman warriors, and those warriors into monsters. It is a grim tale of corruption, suffering, and the endurance of hatred across millennia. But it is also a necessary tale, for only by understanding our enemies can we hope to resist them. The Chaos Space Marines represent one of the gravest threats to the Imperium and to humanity itself. They will never stop, never surrender, and never show mercy. They are the fallen angels, the betrayed brothers, the eternal enemies. And their creation continues, even now, in the darkest corners of the galaxy. If you found this deep dive into the creation of Chaos Space Marines enlightening, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the grim darkness of the far future. What aspect of Chaos Space Marine lore would you like us to explore next? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and some of humanity's greatest defenders have become its most terrible enemies. Stay vigilant, and may the Emperor protect.